So first of all, we know about the soil, how humus is formed, and what is the upper layer of the soil also we have discussed. And next one is soil formation. So how the soil is formed, and how the soil is suitable for the vegetation. Okay, for agriculture purpose. So soil is formed by the process called weathering. Weathering is the disintegration of rocks on the earth's surface caused by the exposure to natural forces such as wind, water, frost, roots of plants, etc. Understood? So weathering is a natural phenomena. It's like this is an disintegration of rocks. Disintegration of rocks in the sense when these rocks expose it to the atmosphere, due to the exposure to the natural forces like wind, water, frost, roots of the plants, with all these actions, these rocks will undergo and convert it into a tiny particles. But weathering is not a simple process, and it won't take within days. It takes years. To convert soil. That's why we need to conserve soil also. Due to floods and major natural phenomenon, so these soil will get washed out. So that the fertility of that soil also will be washed out. So that we need to be very careful for the soil erosion. So especially when this weathering is nothing but, so if we leave the rock for many ages, so that due to this all these natural phenomena, so that these rocks will break down into simpler particles. These simpler particles, when the corrosion or rupture takes place, so that when the rupture takes place, so that the fine particles will be formed. Along with the fine particles, minerals also present in it. So that the holding ability of the soil also develops or imbibed in it, so that it holds the plants. Will all the kinds of soil are used for vegetation? Are used for vegetation? Yes, children? Yes. All the soils are same? All the soils are usable for vegetation?
No, ma'am.
Same? No? No. Why? Because these soils varies from one property to the other. So when we discuss of the weathering is a rock on Earth's surface exposure to natural phenomena, natural forces. But if the wind is more, so that it takes time. So when we want to drop a stone, a big stone, at a time it won't drop. So daily, every day, it's an everyday process, so that the stone will move first, so that after that it grows, so that it drops. Yes or no? Big plants, big trees are present in the forest. How they fall, children? How they fall? We won't go, we won't visit, we won't cut. How they fall by themselves? Because of natural activities, natural exposures. Understood or not? Yes or no? So these natural forces, these natural roots are like roots of plants also. For example, when these roots of plants are grown very big, very big and very bulge. So what happened? So they'll grow at the same way. When the rocks are present inside the earth crust also, by using this, by the strength of these roots, they break into tiny particles. Again, there is a formation of one more layer under the earth crust. Understood? So what are the major natural forces are required for weathering process, children? Tell me. Yes, I want the answer. People are very quiet.
Can you repeat the question?
So what are the natural forces required for this weathering process or formation of pores?
Water, soil, and air.
Water, like wind, not only air. We breathe air. We are able to breathe the air. Whatever the wind, wind means with force. The pressure and the force is completely different than air. Normal air means under the fan or under the normal conditions will sit and will breathe. And what about the wind? Wind. What about the wind? With more force and more pressure. Understood? This wind, water, frost, all these are the different natural explosions so that there is a process of weathering. So this weathering process are of two types, children. One is physical and the other one is physical and the other one is
Chemical.
chemical. So how many types of weathering processes are there, children?
Two.
Two processes. One is the physical process and the other one is the chemical process. So one by one we are going to discuss. When we discuss about the physical weathering is the process of rocks are broken down into smaller pieces. It's a process of rocks are broken down into smaller pieces. It is a mechanical process and does not involve any change in the characteristics of original rock. It's just a breaking down of the rock into simpler particles. Simpler particles. These simpler particles again with the mechanical strength. Now what is the mechanical strength given here? Wind, frost, roots of plants and all this water. So all these are the mechanical forces. When these mechanical forces are acting on the rock itself breaks into simpler particles. These simpler particles due to rupture again they form into very fine particles. It's nothing but soil. So it is mainly caused due to the temperature difference. So when we keep on when we keep on rubbing our hands, is there any difference in the temperature, children? Is there any difference in the temperature?
Yes.
Yes. What is that? There is a generation of energy. Heat energy is taking place when we rub our hand continuously so that we'll feel some heat is produced over here. So the same way, so for these rocks, for these rocks, all these conditions creates some difference in the temperature. Mechanical energy is created over there so that these breaks into simpler particles or fine particles to form soil. But here the main aspect is, here there is no chance of changing the property of the rock. Is there any change in the property of the rock? So if you have taken big rock or if you have taken the fine particles of soil, there is no change in the property of the rock. If you have taken this much particle, also that particle gives the entire property of the big rock. Understood?
Yes.
Not only this, it's also there is a chance of temperature difference, frost growing roots of plants, and movement of animals also. So when the animals keep on walking on the rocks, when they're using the rocks, what happened? There is a chance of breaking, and these breaking particles will again break down into simpler particles. Like that. All these are the main aspects involving in the formation of physical weathering, and it undergoes a mechanical energy is taking over, and this mechanical energy is nothing but breaking the rocks into simpler particles. Here there is no chance of changing the chemical property of the rock. And here mainly there is a creating difference in the temperature takes place. With the difference in the temperature, this weathering is caused. And there is a chance of movement of animals, roots of the plants, growing roots of the plants, different frost, all these are the different aspects involved in the physical weathering. Physical weathering. Next one. What is the next one? Chemical weathering. What is the next aspect or the next division? Weathering is taken place with the two. One is physical and the other one is chemical. What do you mean by chemical weathering? What do you mean by chemical weathering? In case of chemical weathering,
chemical properties change.
In case of chemical weathering, yes, the chemical properties of the rock changes. That means rock can be called as mineral. Yes, rock can be called as mineral. This rock can be converted into a different kind of mineral rock. The main involved substance in this, when it's changing into one kind of mineral to the other kind of mineral, the main involvement of water takes a major role. Here, the conversion of one kind of rock into another kind of rock, especially with water. Here, water plays a major role, children. Water plays a major role. So, by the use of this water, one kind of mineral, by doing this weathering process, it converts into another kind of mineral rock. Like a physical and chemical, let us discuss about stages of weathering. Stages of weathering. So what do you mean by stages of weathering, children? What are the different stages to undergo weathering? So primarily first stage is nothing but to break the, simply we can say that the particles in a huge piece of parent rock. What do you mean by parent rock? The big rock from which the smaller particles or soil forms. That big rock is nothing but a parent rock. So stage 1 is nothing but a huge pieces of parent rock began to break into the surface due to weathering, which can be both physical or chemical. Whether it can be a physical weathering or a chemical weathering, so the big rock starts breaking into smaller pieces. That is the first stage. We won't think about the formation of soil at the stage of 1 only. Stage 1 is nothing but a formation of a big rock broken down into simpler particles or smaller pieces of rock. It can undergo both physical and chemical process. For example, if it is a physical weathering, there is no chance of formation of new mineral rock is formed. If it is a chance of a chemical weathering, so there is a chance of formation of a different kinds of mineral rock. Whatever it is, whether it is a physical or a chemical weathering, so it should, the bigger or the parent rock begins to break down into smaller pieces. That is nothing but stage 1. What is stage 2? Smaller rocks continues going weathering process so that the upper layer of the rocks is full of very fine rock particles. And here, bacteria and other microorganisms broken down into plants or animals remains to form humus. Okay. So on the surface of rock, what happened? This bigger rock broken down into smaller, like second stage. In the second stage, these rocks are broken down into simpler ones. And there is a chance of acting of microorganisms along with this rock to form humus. And this is nothing but this gives the fertility of the soil. Along with the fine particles of the rocks. At the same way, there is a chance of formation of humus also. Understood, children? Understood or not? So here, in the
Yes,
stage, we will say that, so actually I want to show you the video. I think it's get missed up. So after this explanation part, immediately I'll show you the video about the stages of weathering. Okay, give me like 1 to 5 seconds time so that I'll get the video and I'll show you. So what is the first stage? To the parent rock, the bigger parent rock breaks down into a simpler or smaller piece, not two small pieces at the stage of 2. And stage 2, these smaller rocks along with the microorganisms, bacteria, and with the dead and decaying plants and organisms, along with the formation of soil, and there is a chance of formation of humus also. And here water also plays a major role to bind the soil with the humus. And several minerals also plays a major and vital role to grow the plants and to give the different nutrients to or to increase the fertility of the soil. That's why if you go to the forest, there the dead and decaying plants and animals itself acts their own nutrients, humus, minerals, so that there is no requirement of the manure or there is no requirement of the fertilizers, chemicals, but the plants will grow and the good nature and good nutrients, kinds of fruits and different kinds of things will come up from the forest. So that whatever we get from the forest is considered it is pure and it is very healthy. Because of this undergoing the weathering and the fertility of the soil also very strong with the different minerals and the nutrients. Any doubts? Any doubts, children? And the third stage is nothing but minerals and salts deep inside the ground. These soil will go deep inside along with the rocks. These rocks will go inside along with the ground or under the earth crust, to complete the formation of soil and make it favorable for the plant growth. Not only the fertility of the soil, the underground soil also plays a major role to hold the roots. If the soil holding capacity of the soil is weak, so that the plant falls down. And there is no, we can't observe the erectness of the plants and trees.